Episode 7. This episode contains some of the best scenes from this whole series. Margot's first meeting with Big Man, Lilith getting to know her brothers and sisters in the Fey realm, Jonah's problematic encounter with Mr. Thompson, and Serena's introduction to a dark Fey prince. You're going to love this one. Enjoy.
And their shadow just completely engulfs you. You hear this person say, "Oh, that sure is a shame. Murder like that happening in a nice town like this." What do you do?
I turn around and look up and look up.
You see Big Man. He's big. He's with the cowboy hat. He's over. He easily 7 feet tall, right? Very wide, but old. That's the thing that really is striking about him. He's saggy and jowly and old, and you can see wisps of gray hair and just kind of blood vessels, creasing, lining his face. And he takes out a cigarette. He lights it up. Takes a little drag. He's a gentleman. He blows the smoke away from you. You from around here?
Yeah, you're not.
No, I'm just passing through on business. Hey, you look like you're going somewhere. And he sees your backpack, and where are you headed to?
Places. Hey, you weren't out at my dad's trailer earlier today, were you?
And he has a little glimmer in his eye, and he smiles, a big wide smile as he says it, right? And you can see his yellow teeth inside that almost match his yellow suit, right? Shucks, no, I just got here just moments ago, in fact. Nope, must have been somebody else. I got one of those faces, that's what people tell me.
Yeah, I'm backing away step by step, trying to move along the periphery, keeping close to cops as I'm doing that, while they're rolling out the tape or keeping the crowd away.
Keep her cool. Give me another keep her cool.
So it's 5 with adjustment.
All right, mark another XP. Let's smash cut.
I think right before the smash cut, there's flamenco music that's starts building up and building up, and right when there's that wailing sound that always happens in the song, we cut back and there's a transient darkness around us, and instead of how in lots of movies there's always faces that appear but only in the pale moonlight kind of thing, I think there's faces around us but it's only in transient darkness, and then the light hits them and then they're gone. And I think along the knots of this tree, the tree's hand with all the bark and vines and stuff like that, there's a trail of red poppies that lead in the middle, as if it's the artery of the tree.
Interesting. You're in this on this branch, right, looking down. What do you guys do?
Lilith is still really hurt, so she's holding her neck to press against it and stuff, but she wants to follow the poppies and see where they go, kind of thing. Sort of pull that she feels, almost she's completely ignoring Serena and just walking on this trail.
I think I am really unsure of where we are, so I think I'm sticking to Lilith's side, or just behind her, wherever she's going. Yeah, totally freaking out a little bit. Just trying to make sure I can get somewhere safe, because this doesn't feel safe for me yet. Even if the forest or wherever we are isn't actively hurting, I don't feel a malevolent force yet. It definitely, I don't feel safe yet.
I was picturing it an outstretched tree branch, right? That is it rises above, but you can walk down it, kind of thing, and it's a hand.
Almost like an arm and a hand depositing you on the ground, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so where the poppies are the veins of the hand, and we're following that down, kind of thing. and the whole time there's like flamenco music in the background as we're like following this path.
Both of you just give me gaze into the abyss rolls.
Serena would definitely be looking for someplace familiar or safe, or like someplace where she can feel safe again, because this feels strange and different and not what she expected, and I failed.
I got a 9, and I think I'm looking specifically for where this path leads, like where the poppies are taking me. Like I think the like symbolism of the path with the bright red poppies against like the backdrop of the green and the bark and stuff, she sort of feels like it's like the lifeblood of the place, and she's looking for whatever that connects to.
I'm gonna come back and resolve both those in a moment. Let's go to Jonah.
Yeah, I think that while Mr. Thompson's in the shower, Jonah's kind of high off these feelings from his clique, and he's going to where Mr. Thompson's like home gym is, and he's gonna like lift some weights.
All right, so you're just gonna go work out in Mr. Thompson's.
He like works out, and he's basically like trying to pump his muscles. So
all right.
And gets a good pump going. Mr. Thompson's like home gym stuff is like in his bedroom, like outside of the bathroom where he's taking the shower.
Right, yeah. It's like a bone flex or something, right?
Right, yeah. Oh, well, Mr. Thompson, think of this. He's going to see me all super hot. kind of thing.
Okay. I'm into it. So I think Mr. Thompson, like, he just sort of like, it's unclear whether he did it on purpose or not. It could just be a habit because he lives by himself, right? But once he's done with his shower, he like steps out of the shower like with just his towel wrapped around his waist, right? And like he's really, really fit. I mean, he's so good looking, right? He might be like a little sheepish at first, but then he's like, whatever. This is like being in a locker room, no big deal, right? And then he sees you like, on his machine, like all sweaty and like, like doing your thing. Roll turn someone on.
A 9. So I get a string on Mr. Thompson.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that you can then spend to make him do something.
I think he stands up and he goes up to Mr. Thompson and he's like, "Oh, this is some nice gear you got here. Works really well." And he like flexes his muscles.
And Mr. Thompson says, he's like, "No, it's good, man. It's good. Like, it's, I think that was a really smart move. It's a good way of releasing tension, right? I mean, do you feel relaxed now? Do you feel better?"
And Jonah smiles. He nods and he's like, "Yeah, a bit better. Could use a shower myself." Then he like takes off his shirt.
He's like, "All right, yeah. It's still warm, so go for it."
And then I think there's this moment where like Jonah pauses and looks at Mr. Thompson, give the look.
Yeah.
The kind of like, let's fuck look.
Yeah, if you want to pull the string, go for it.
Yeah.
All right, so when you tempt an MC character, I'll tell you what sort of bribe thrower cooks. All right. He looks at you and he's like, "Dude, I could lose my job. I could go to jail. You've just got to promise me that like this never ever leaves this apartment."
I think he just says, "You're not going to lose your job," and then he just goes for it. Yeah.
All right. Let's cut. So Marco, you were trying to like back away, like slowly, like kind of casually, like it's cool, though I'm just gonna go on my way. But Big Man's not having it. He lunges forward and he's so fast. Like for someone as big as he is, he moves like a cat. Like he just lunges forward and he grabs you by the back of your head, or by the back of your neck. And his hand is so big he can palm the back of your neck right easily. Mm-hmm. And he just slings you up against, I think you guys are like near an EMT truck, right? He just like slings you up against like this EMT truck, the side of it, and just smashes your face. And there's just like a crunch of teeth and blood, and like your eye socket just like immediately like swells up and like closes for like, as he just like smashes you up against this thing. And he's like physically holding you in the air up by one arm against the EMT truck, right? And he says, "You will never go into the forest again. Those woods are a place of truth, and you are a lie." And I'm gonna give you 2 harm in the condition I am a lie. And a cop comes around the corner and like sees all this happening and just says, "Is everything okay here?" And Big Man says, "Officer, you don't get to ask the questions here. Only I get to ask the questions. But everything is fine. Why don't you go ahead and go on your way?" And the police officer like smiles and gives like a little like thumbs up. And he's like, all right. And he like continues on his way. And then Big Man just like drops you down. He kind of tips his hat to you, takes another drag on his cigarette, which was kind of hanging off the side of his mouth still. "Well, you have a nice day, all right?" We'll cut there. Let's go to Lilith and Serena. So you're both wandering along this poppy path, trying to figure out what's going on here, trying to figure out the truth of the situation. And you hear this music. At a certain point, like before you both realize it's even happening, you start to put some distance between each other, right? Like Lilith, you're walking just a little bit faster than Serena, right? And gradually, like as you're moving through this thick, massive wood with these red poppy on this red poppy trail, paces and paces and paces of distance between you. You just begin to become separated, right? What do you each see? Like, just give me one like vivid detail that you see as you're kind of walking through the forest.
Totally a fawn from like Pan's Labyrinth, like that guy who's like really creaky looking with the big horns and everything.
Nice. What about you, Serena?
I think it looks like somebody running, but like maybe what the camera sees is like the swirl of like a flamenco dress, so like all the ruffles and things like that as you see it like swirl, but like as like Serena like turns and tries to find it, like it's just like the bleeding edge, you never like quite see it as the ruffles and stuff fly about. So like maybe that's when it pans out and you see Serena like way off from Lilith, as in like chasing this visual stream of cloth that I can never catch.
And Serena, you catch out of the corner of your eye a figure standing there. In build, he appears to be a man. Like he's covered from like the top of his skull down to his feet in this like dark gunmetal gray metal mesh, this mesh that goes all over his body, right? And it outlines every part of his body, his shoulders, his musculature, like his abdomen even. It's all like outlined by this like metal mesh, all up and down his legs and like kind of stretching up to his torso and out onto his arms and fingertips, as if like growing up from the ground. There are like red roses like ornamental detail like all over this metal mesh on his body, right? No facial features, just like this metal mesh. And he points in the direction that Lilith and is walking in the direction of the poppy flow. And he says, "This place is not for you." And then he like turns and he points down another path, a path that is darker, cloaked in moonlight. He says, "That is your path. You go. You have no choice." I'm pushing it on the move. And you begin to walk down that moonlit path. Lilith, you've lost track of Serena, but you almost don't even care at this point, right? What do you expect to find when you get to the end of the path?
I was thinking maybe the music is sort of like, instead of it displaying what the forest is like, it's internal dialogue of Lilith. So it's like sort of an awakening within her. So I think she's searching for some sort of answer about herself in here, even though she doesn't know that's what she's doing, kind of thing.
Nice. And I think you make your way along this path of poppies until you get to this copse of trees, okay? And in this copse of trees, there's a woman leaning up against the trees. She's very big, right? She's leaning up against these trees, and she has no clothing on. her skin is like this really, really like delicate lavender color, right? And her legs are spread wide, right? Her belly is massive, right? As if she's in labor, right? And every now and then, like as you approach, she's big enough to where like you could walk like between her legs and not have to be perfectly upright, right? Every time she like cries and heaves like what would be a labor pain, the carpet of like red poppies gets bigger and wider, right? And it starts to like fill out the area. And you see crawling from her womb are like beautiful, fully formed people wearing clothing. They crawl forth, and there's men, there's women, they're luminous, they're attractive, they have different skin colors, but all of them like are laughing and having a good time. And as they like crawl forth from her and like look at each other, it's like they discover each other for the first time, like they're just now seeing each other, and they begin to just begin to make love like right there, like in this like field of red poppies between the legs of this gigantic lavender colored woman giving birth. And you watch them for a time, you watch them make out, you watch this like ever increasing like orgy of bodies, right? And it reaches like a crescendo of passion, right? It's almost hypnotic at a certain point. There's about a dozen of them just engaging this massive orgy in this field of poppies. And then all at once they stop. They all turn their heads at you and they say, "Welcome home, sister." And then your vision ends. Let's cut to Jonah. So Jonah.
The scene starts with just these like montage flashes of writhing bodies. Consider that gazing into the abyss, or
obviously your sex move's going to trigger. So what does that do? Let's resolve that first.
They gain a condition, one of them.
Oh, so he becomes part of your crew.
While they have it, they're part of my gang, yeah.
Got it.
So some of the magic going on here.
I see. Oh yeah, well that's true because you do, yeah, like you gaze into the abyss whenever you're like fucking somebody. So yeah, I'll take that. Go for it. What do you want to know?
I want to know Mr. Thompson's secret.
What do you think it is?
He knew about your father beating you, which would be like, to me, that's an immediate red flag, because if a teacher ever knows about that, that's immediately they're supposed to report that, and you're supposed to go to Child Protective Services. So why didn't he do that? So there's got to be something else.
Maybe he's in the closet or something. I got a 7.
7. Okay.
Maybe Mr. Thompson has done this before, like got involved with a student before. Maybe he knows what an abusive relationship is and is already like thinking of trying to leverage that some way. So
that's pretty good. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna kind of springboard off that, right? You have a vision of a young man, probably in his like early 20s, but he looks older somehow. He looks like 20 miles of hard road, right? He is disheveled. He is on the streets. Like I think his arms are exposed and you can see like the track marks running up his arms, right?
Okay.
He just looks really, really fucked up. I think in this whole vision, it flashes by very fast, but you see all of it. You see him trying to like, beg for money. You see him like, getting chased off from businesses and stuff like that. This is in Seattle, probably. Maybe you even see the Space Needle in the background, right? And then you see him like basically like in what appears to be like some kind of just disgusting flop house, right? Just turning tricks for money, right? And he's just there as like almost a parade of like just filthy, degenerate older men, just like have their way with him. I think that's it. But there's a connection between this guy and Mr. Thompson for sure.
So I think we cut to like after the sex at this point, and I think that Jonah is probably eating a slice of that pizza, sitting on the couch with Mr. Thompson, and then he asks, "So have you done anything like this before?"
No, I never have. Like it's fucking crazy. Like I would never dream of like doing something like this with a student. I don't know, you seem like an old soul, you know? Like it feels different with you.
And then he like takes another bite, and as he's chewing, he's like, I'm not some kid. There's a lot to me that you don't know.
Yeah, I can tell that's the case. Let's just see what's on Netflix. And then he like grabs a remote. I think he's not wanting to have this conversation right now.
And then I think what Jonah does is he's like, no, why don't we take a walk into the woods?
He's like, all right, yeah, sure. Let me go get my shoes on. We'll cut there. Serena, you're walking down this moonlit path, right? And it's almost like Lilith is kind of falling away in your mind, right? Everything that just happened feels so distant, right? As you're kind of making your way through this moonlit path. The smells are changing. They're becoming more herbaceous, like tomato leaves or something like that. And there are starting to be a lot more like bramble on the ground, right? Like you can feel the thorns of the bramble like kind of cutting into your ankles, right? As you kind of like crunch your way through it. And then you find yourself at a threshold of what appears to be a moonlit lake, okay? Or like a little pond, right? When I say threshold, I mean there's like a canopy there's like a tree, an archway of like tree branches, you know, that like look like a door almost into this like little pond area, right? And you see now that there are numerous people very similar to the person who beckoned you along this path that are dressed in this like metallic mesh all over their body, right? You can see the moonlight glinting off of it, and almost like their bodies like kind of shimmer, right? Because of the mesh and the moonlight, the way it hits it. Men and women, probably about half a dozen. Curiously, they're all wearing like masks, even though like their eyes are covered by the metal mesh, but they have these like masks on. And some of the masks like have like twisty ungulate like horns, you know, coming off of them. And some of the masks are like sprays of feathers, right? But they're all wearing these masks. And they all like kind of array themselves before this pond, right? And then like a person begins to like rise up out of the water, right? It's a young man. He is luminous, like his skin is like porcelain white, right? He's not like heavily muscled, but he's fit. He's got short black hair, and even though it seems to be nighttime, you can see that his eyes are like gray eyes. They almost look like, against the whites of his eyes, they almost look completely white, right, in moonlight. He steps out of this pond. He's naked. All of these people who've arrayed themselves around the pond, they begin to like attend him. They begin to like fawn over him a little bit, right? They have like claws and they're like drawing his body, right? And his arms are just spread while they do this to him, right? They have little jars with something in it, and as the jars are opened, you smell that herbaceous smell. It's really strong. And they begin to like, it's some kind of tincture or something, or cologne or perfume, and they begin to like kind of put it on his body, right? Rub it like in certain parts of his body. And this is all just happening. And he's just making direct eye contact with you this entire time as you stand there and they do this stuff to him. Like they wrap just kind of like a little cloth around his waist, and they kind of drape him with like black cape, right? It's a sort of cape, or it's sort of a black shimmery cape, but they like drape it over his shoulders, right?
I think during the whole thing, like if he locks his eyes with mine, like I feel like it's almost like I can't turn away. And so like I think maybe I walk like close enough to him or try to like approach.
You cannot.
Stand like right outside of it. Can feel like the wall that's there that like I just can't like press there. And so like I'm standing like outside at the wall, like I'm sort of like almost like pouting, standing with my arms crossed, just like waiting like for him to like finish, standing in the doorway where they would have to come out, and just like standing here like with my arms crossed.
And he sees that you want to come in. He seems to have a perfect understanding why you can't. And he kind of smiles. He's getting ready to take a step forward And as soon as he like tries to take a step forward, like one of his like attendants like stops. Like they don't want his like foot to fall on the ground, right? Like it would be sacrilegious or something. And so all these people around him, they seem to like acknowledge like what has to happen. And so they like spread themselves out along the ground, like creating a path like to the threshold of the door.
Yeah.
And he just like steps on top of them. And like as he does so, like the weight of his body, you could hear like groans of pain and like muffled noises of pain as he like steps across all of these like servants until he gets like right to the end. And he kind of smiles and says, "Do you want me to let you inside?"
I would love for you to let me inside. You're just gonna let a girl stand out here all alone?
Maybe for now. And then I think you're ejected from the Fey realm.